What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. We got some Twitter beef that we are going to be looking at here in a second. So it is highly entertaining. I know I made a video about Vivek Ramaswamy yesterday, and that's who it's going to be involving. It's going to be Vivek versus Joy and Reid from MSNBC, one of the greatest race hustlers of America today. They're going back and forth on Twitter about affirmative action. And then she responds to him via video, and then he has a response once again. This guy is too smart. I don't know. I mean, we know why she's not debating him and when she's not bringing her on her platform, because she's scared that her job might be on the line, just like Don Lemon's was after he debated Vivek on his show. So she's avoiding it at all costs and trying to discredit him on Twitter here. And it's absolutely glorious because she's getting destroyed on Twitter as we speak. So let's look at this clip from Joy talking shit, and then we're going to look at Vivek's response.
Hey guys, so this guy Vivek Ramaswamy has just been like thirstily, hilariously like tweeting at me. I don't even tweet anymore. I'm like so off Twitter, trying to get booked on my show. So here's what's wild about that. Here he is saying, like me, Joy and Reid is a kid of immigrants from a former European colony who went to Harvard. Unlike me, she benefited from affirmative action because she counts as Black and, in her own words, wouldn't have gotten in without it. She complains that her peers looked at her blah, 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 blah. First of all, affirmative action is how you got into Vivek. They were looking for a more diverse cohort of people at the school. They let you in for the exact same reason. I'm just honest enough to admit it and not ashamed of how I actually got into college. That's number one. Number two, excuse me, Mr. Meritocracy, only on the merits. What makes you think that you are entitled to get on my show? If we want to go purely on meritocracy, then the only people that I'm going to book on the readout are the people who the data, the objective data, like the PSAT scores and SAT scores and grade point average.
Watch the contradiction here.
That got me into Harvard. The objective.
Hey, you see that? She just said affirmative action got her into college. Now she's saying her SAT scores and grades got her into college.
The data says that you have about a 0% chance of ever being president of the United States. So excuse me, what is your entitlement to get on my show?
Well, ma'am, you can't make that decision for the American people. If he's running for president and he's a legitimate candidate, you're supposed to platform him as the media. You're not supposed to pick sides and choose who you want to platform and who you don't want to platform because you disagree with them or not. That's not how that works. As the media, you're supposed to give them equal and fair treatment, whether they're on the left or on the right. You bring them to your platform, you ask legitimate questions that the people want to ask, and then you let the person speak for themselves. And then we as the voters, we as the people will decide if this dude is legitimate or not, or if we want to vote for him or not. You don't make that decision. That's the problem with the media nowadays. They want to make this decision for us without even knowing what we want to know and what we want to hear. They only want to bring people that agree with them and are in the same echo chamber that they remain in. So that's why he's entitled to be on your show, because you're on prime time. You're on one of the biggest, was one of the biggest news outlets in America. I mean, that's why people literally call you a propaganda outlet, is because you don't platform people like Vivek that disagree with you and that you disagree with. That's literally the exact reason why you're known as the biggest left-wing propaganda outlet. Is this same exact reason. These people don't get it.
Because you went to Harvard? That doesn't sound like meritocracy, because that sounds like exactly the way other rich people get into Harvard, because they have a connection to the school. So you think
this is a low IQ argument right here.
Connection to the school is the reason you should get on my show. Just like you clearly think that having a connection to Harvard is the way people should be able to get into Harvard. And aren't you the one who, in your own little biography,
bunch of strawmans, bro,
said that you come from the very highest echelon of people in India? So your elitism plus your connection to Harvard, is the reason I should put you on my show to talk about your run for president, not the objective fact that you have any chance in hell of ever actually being president. You know what, Vivek? Holler at.
Listen, there's a part two. There's a part two.
You know what, Vivek? Holler at me when you're polling close enough to Donald Trump that you could actually get the nomination. Then you will have earned a place at my table.
He already earned a place, or should have earned a place, for the mere fact that he's on the polls.
You don't get a place at my table simply because you are elite and have a connection to Harvard and happen to be an alum. That is the kind of, I don't know, non-merit-based approach that so many of us object to in the way Harvard lets in legacies and the way you are trying to keep out people like me, and I hate to break it to you, but people like you from getting into the school. Be blessed.
These people are crazy. Now, we know exactly why they won't bring this guy on here. We know exactly why they won't platform him. We know exactly why they hate him. Because one, he's a Republican and he's so-called a person of color. That alone gets you demonized by the left. But then, it's also the mere fact that this dude is just absolutely smart. He's a genius and he's very articulate. He knows how to communicate very well and get his message across. And they can't stand that. And he's based on facts, literal facts, and undisputable history and facts. And they hate it because they don't know theirs. So he responded. He said, Joy embodies the modern left's playbook. Talk a big game by spewing lies to her followers, then duck away from actual debate when challenged on the facts. After I educated Don Lemon on air, basic history, U.S. history, Joy Reid did an entire segment about how my facts were wrong, then cowered in fear and hid when I offered open debate. Today, she wrongfully asserted that I personally benefited from affirmative action, just like she did at Harvard, which is psychotic because Asian Americans are most penalized by affirmative action. That is a fact. That literally is a fact. That's on the evidence used by the Supreme Court, that it was the Asian students who were disproportionately being discriminated against. And she doesn't know, because she's racist, that he's an Asian American. He's an Indian American. They're all in the same category. And we're plaintiffs in the recent Supreme Court case. Literally, it was Asians that sued Harvard, quote unquote. The rare combination of ignorance and gal is shocking yet laughable. Keep hiding in your TikTok safe space, Joy. Yeah, exactly. That's why she's not on Twitter. That's why she's not on Twitter. That's why she's on TikTok, because TikTok is literally the biggest echo chamber. Twitter, you're going to get a whole, if you go on Twitter now and go on these people that are the leftists, you're going to see conservatives giving them their opinions on there. You go on TikTok and you go to the comments, it is nothing but people that are in the same echo chamber. That's why she's not on Twitter. Let's look at the video response.
In the Dred Scott case, Chief Justice Taney held for the Supreme Court that Black people could not be citizens before the Civil War because that would allow them to own guns. After the Civil War, the first anti-gun laws, gun control laws that were passed in this country were actually passed to stop Black people from owning guns. These are some of the facts that I educated Don Lemon on set in a heated exchange that we had shortly before his filing.
I can guarantee you.
So shortly after,
I can guarantee you those laws were passed by the Democrats too.
After that exchange, Joy Reid, an MSNBC host, has Ro Khanna, a Democratic politician who happens to be an Indian American, as a stand-in for the Indian American view, criticizing me for supposedly stating falsehoods. Actually, everything I stated is factually true based on U.S. history, but criticizing at length my supposed falsehoods, and then has Ro Khanna effectively licking her feet, which is exactly what she wanted on air, talking about how Indian Americans owe Black Americans a debt of gratitude.
What a freaking simp, bro. What a simp.
So I thought it was remarkable that here's a TV host, supposedly who wants to engage in open debate about my views on this post-Civil War history, who's talking about me on air extensively to another Indian American second-rate stand-in, but won't talk to me directly. So I made an offer. Said, if you want to have a debate about this, if you think that your recounting of the post-Civil War history is any different than mine, let's have that debate in the open. What do we get? Silence. This is what the modern left does, and Joy Reid embodies it very well, actually. Cower in fear and hide. Talk a big game when you're talking to your own community, when you're talking to the people who agree with you, but cower in fear when it comes to actually confronting the other side in open debate. Now, more recently, she was spouting off about affirmative action after the Supreme Court came down with its ruling, saying that she would not have gotten into Harvard without affirmative action. I believe her. I think that's probably true. But then she also complained that she was judged negatively by her peers because she got in based on affirmative action. I actually said that that's wrong. It's wrong to Black Americans. It's wrong to Asian Americans or white Americans who are discriminated against. But it's even unfair to Black Americans, many of whom I went to school with, who would have gone in meritocratically anyway. It's unfair that they're judged that way. So I said so.
Exactly. That creates a stigma around all students because they got into affirmative action, because some students got in because of affirmative action. Now, all students are going to be looked as if they were an affirmative action student. You're going to create the stigma again against Black people that we're not smart enough to get into these universities on our own.
And then Joy Reid, again, classic pattern, talking about me instead of to me, says that, oh, Vivek Ramaswamy also wouldn't have gotten into Harvard but for affirmative action. That is a lie, and it reflects a shocking combination of gall and ignorance, failing to pay attention to the fact that that case argued in front of the Supreme Court was brought on behalf of Asian Americans. That includes Indian Americans who are systematically discriminated against, penalized by affirmative action, which rewards Black and Hispanic Americans. So that combination of ignorance but self-confidence embodies the modern left. And the sad part of it is, folks like Joy Reid, again, they have utter, total, apparent comfort with spewing falsehoods and doing it to only the silos and the echo chambers that agree with them. Totally comfortable to talk about me at length and all the reasons why I'm supposedly wrong, when in fact I'm grounded in fact. But what I say is, okay, if I believe in my views and you believe in yours, I'm open to having it out in the open. That's where I talk to Chuck Todd or Don Lemon, go on the Breakfast Club. I show up and believe in open dialogue and debate. That's how we get to truth. It's a shame to see that some of the leading commentators for the modern left, when push comes to shove, really just go back into their caves to hide from the truth, wallowing in their own fear. What I'll say is, Joy, from one alum to another, the offer still stands. I understand why you'd like to hide from debate, but I think it's better for the country if you're actually engaging with the people who disagree with you rather than talking about them with falsehoods without actually confronting the facts.
There you have it. This guy is too smart, man. This is exactly why they do not want to debate him. That's literally it. He's too smart. And the thing is, the reason that they avoid these left-wing propaganda outlets, avoid people like him, is that they can articulate their messages very, very clearly. So when they're going to have these debates on air, for example, the left is going to bring up things like, well, LGBTQ rights. And then people like Vivek are going to expand on that and say, well, what rights are you talking about? See, they can't expand on their ideas. If they do, it will literally fall apart in front of their face. And that's what they don't want to happen in front of their audience. So with this LGBTQ example, Vivek is going to expand on that and say, well, we don't think that kids should be having gender affirming surgeries under the age of 18. There's nobody in their right mind that's going to disagree on that. See, with situations like that, the left are going to ignore debate and hide away from debate because they only use talking points. They only use headlines. And people on the left are ignorant and they only read the headlines. They don't go further into detail about what LGBTQ rights are, what trans rights are. Nobody knows what books are being banned in schools. See, people like Vivek, they will bring the book to you and read the context of the book and dismantle your idea in front of your audience. That's what you don't want to happen. That's why they're left cowards from debate. That's why they don't platform people like Vivek at all. They won't. They won't. It would literally ruin their whole ideology and their whole platform. So, I mean, it's really that simple. They will. She's going to cower. You see what happened with Don Lemon? He lost his freaking job the next few days, and she's not going to do that. She's not going to do that. But I mean, that's it. That's literally it, man. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for being here. Make sure you guys hit the like button down below. And if this is your first time on the channel, consider hitting the subscribe button for more content. And if you want to support me even further, I have links in my description where you can make donations. It's definitely not necessary or required, but really appreciate it, man. Thanks for being here, guys. See you on the next video. Peace.